I always say, you know what? I don't cold call anybody. I do think cold calling is dead. I warm call them. Like I'm a big fan of texting. I worked at a company called Text Us for 10 years, right? We're kind of the pioneers in the staffing space. I text, I LinkedIn message everybody. And then I say, hey, Kortney, are you free for a call? So then the candidate or who the person I'm trying to sell to, they can set up the time. Yeah, I'm free at 3.
Hi, I'm Kortney Harmon, Director of Industry Relations at Create. This is the Full Desk Experiences Industry Spotlight Series.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Full Desk Experience. I am so excited for today's conversation because we're diving into something that every recruiting and staffing firm is wrestling with right now, and it's communication. And I don't mean just the tools, but I mean the whole picture. How firms are actually reaching out to candidates, clients, what's frankly working, what's broken, and where things are headed in this AI market that we're in today. So today's guest, Erich, is from Ringover, and they really sit at the intersection of communication technology and the staffing and recruiting world. And Erich has a front row view of what's going on out there. So I can't wait, Erich, for you to join us. Tell us your perspective. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your obviously very busy schedule to be with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kortney. Thanks for having me on here. Real excited about this opportunity to chat with you today.
I love it. Well, Erich, tell our audience, we have a variety of audience, but tell us a little bit about your role there at Ringover, how you work with recruiting and staffing industry day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been in the industry for 18 years this August. Always on the vendor side, never on the recruiter side. I joined Ringover actually a year ago this past Tuesday. And a little bit, yeah, thank you. Yeah, a little bit about Ringover, what we do. We're a traditional omni-channel communication platform. So what I mean by that, it's your voice, it's text messaging, WhatsApp, Google Chat, all within one platform. And then our AI sits on top of that, right? Everybody, like I said, everybody has AI now, but ours is the ability to sit over top of that and then pull that data back into solutions like Relate. So we sit over top of that and really kind of enhances everything that you're doing and sees what the entire organizations and how they're communicating. So I think of it as an omni-channel communication platform and the AI that empowers that and pulls out all the keynotes and data that you need on what your sales team, your customer service team, and everyone's doing within your organization and your recruiters do.
I think it's amazing. I love it. And we have talked to so many people using your tool. So it was only fitting to bring you on the show. So we're super excited. From where you sit, what's the biggest communication breakdown that you see between recruiters and candidates, or maybe even clients as they're trying to have those conversations? Because you see things a little differently from your perspective.
Absolutely. It's actually something I wouldn't say I battle with. I have this conversation internally with my own marketing team, and it's communicate with the contact with the candidate on their terms. And so that's often confusing to people. What's that mean? Okay, well, whether you used AI outreach, recruiter reached out, marketing drove a lead to you, however you came in contact with that person, again, contact at a business or the candidate, if you texted them and they text you back and you just immediately call them, that's super disruptive. Communicate on the means that they ask. So even just that very beginning of how you start talking with someone, communicate on their terms. Ask what their preference is. If they say they want to email or use LinkedIn, well, use that channel and then set up the call when you need it. And it's hard for me. I sell voice, right? I'm like, hey, and I always say, you know what? I don't cold call anybody. I do think cold calling is dead. I warm call them. Like I'm a big fan of texting. I worked at a company called Text Us for 10 years, right? We're kind of the pioneers in the staffing space. I text, I LinkedIn message everybody. And then I say, hey, Kortney, are you free for a call? So then the candidate or who the person I'm trying to sell to, they can set up the time. Yeah, I'm free at 3. It's not intrusive. We used to say is cold calls and texting, they're intrusive. I'm like, they're intrusive, but they're also effective. It's both. And so you think about that, the biggest breakdown is communicate how that person wants to. And so something just has to stop back, ask marketing, ask how you want to reach out. When you're communicating with them, ask, do you want me to text you about this? Do you want me to LinkedIn message you? Facebook, you depend on the generations now. Like it could be Snapchat. I mean, I don't know where it's going to. It's changing, right? Depends on the generation. I think I've aged out of that, but
Me too,
text is
thank
mine.
goodness.
Yeah, like they're like, I'm on Twitch. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But it's changing, right? We have to think of that demographic you're reaching out to and what do they prefer. And so it's really important for us to really think about that. That's the first thing. And then the next biggest breakdown is how do we get that data back? And how is that all coming back into our system? Because great, I had an awesome conversation with Kortney. I don't have any notes on it. I had that yesterday with the chief intelligence officer at a firm, and somebody I've known forever. I did it on my cell phone, and I was like, crap. I didn't record any of that. It was a 30-minute talk. We talked about his golf, his family. Oh, then we also talked about a lot of stuff they want and need. So then I'm trying to remember back what happened. And that's what happens to all of us, right? You don't want to break that, but it's also like, how can you get that information back in your system? If it's not in there, it doesn't exist, right? That's what, as leaders, we tell our sales team, if it's not in the system, it doesn't exist. Didn't happen. So that's your breakdown is, again, connect on their terms and just get the data back.
I love it. You say generational. It's like you think about, it used to be like, how do you communicate with boomers? And now these millennial people, now we're becoming the boomers.
Yep.
But it's just interesting to see how anyone wants to communicate. And let's face it, communication is getting harder by the day because I don't know about you. I wake up to spam emails saying my parents met in your small town and at this restaurant, which it's all fake, it's all fictitious, but like it's harder to break through those pieces more than ever. So if you get a signal, stay with that signal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you're right. If it isn't in the system, it did not happen. I've talked to many recruiting firms that have said, I eventually started pulling commissions. If they didn't want to put it in, I didn't do that. So we don't want that to happen to anyone else. And I'm so thankful that I don't have to recruit in the day of Twitch or whatever you just said, because I don't even know what that is either. Oh boy, it's a scary place out there. Obviously, you talked about the breakdown. Recruiters are competing for candidate attention and client attention, let's face it, with every outreach in someone else's inbox. Whether it's speed to the candidate, speed to the client, cutting through the noise. What do you think? What's working for the best firms at this point?
Yeah, for sure. I call it all bound. And so it's really, again, back to the same thing. It shouldn't just be one thing, right? It shouldn't just be phone calls. And when I joined here, like it was just calls. And I was like, guys, it should be all bound. It should be all of these, right? I care about how much outreach you do a day. It's the numbers game still. It's consistency still. Like that's always going to exist, right? And so it's more about just being consistent about your outreach. And personally, like I said, I like to multi-thread it. I LinkedIn connect with them first. Once I do that, then I'll call them. Biggest piece, don't just call someone and not leave a voicemail, right? One of the biggest things right now is we're getting marked for spam. Android did it forever. iPhone rolled it out last year. Spam filtering's a lot easier. There's simple things like just leaving a voicemail. Hey, Kortney, I'm calling you about this position. Then once I do that, I send her a text message. Hey, Kortney, I just left you a voicemail about this position. Are you free to chat? So now I've done like 3 different points of contact to that person. Hopefully they got my LinkedIn connection first. Then I call them. They got my voicemail. So it's almost like 4, right? Because we're not answering phone calls we don't know. That's like a hard no, unless it's my kid's school or something like that, where I'm like, it says Edgewater because of the town there. And I'm like, uh-oh, you got in trouble. Other than that, I don't answer. Voicemail, I immediately listen to it and then I'll text them back. You're free to chat later, right? That's what I generally do. And so that's my method. And that's what I think is the most effective. Phone calls are still very effective. It's just how you do it, right? And because often we come across recruiters like, well, I'm getting marked for spam. I'm like, let's go look at your habits. You called that person 10 times in 2 days and you didn't leave a voicemail. If you got 10 calls from the same number, would you call that spam? Well, yeah, but I have an important job for them. Well, leave a voicemail or text them, or WhatsApp them, depending on your market, who you're reaching out to. So again, it's changing, but it's just change up what you've done. What you did is not going to work in the future, right? And that's the ever evolving part of recruiting. And the companies that are being successful at it, they're evolving with that too.
And it's moving fast. Everything is moving very fast. I love the term all bound. Ironically, we use that in our marketing team as well. So I love that you use all bound. That is amazing. And you're not wrong, because I do a virtual event, and we actually had someone from Haley Marketing on, a marketing agency, and he mentioned their recent, I would say a case study or a survey. And he said it's now 72 touches to actually get to a phone call. And when he said, I'm saying 72, it's not you're calling that person 72 times. It's whether you're texting them, you're writing them on LinkedIn, you're commenting on one of their social posts. But 72 is a hard, far right turn from the 10 to 12 that you and I dealt with whenever we were in the industry.
Yeah. And I had a similar conversation with Sebastian Dumas, our CMO. and he's in Europe. They have a lot of different compliance, things like that. He's worked for American companies. And I look at our advertising budget for this. I'm like, oh my God, why are we spending so much there? He's like, you have to have so many different touch points, right? It might have been them seeing something when they're on Facebook or when they're on I Love Cooking, I'm on Food Network, or even now, right? With AI searching, like 50% of all data and AI is coming from Reddit. So what are you doing on Reddit now, right? You want to show up in a ChatGPT search, a Gemini search, a Claude search. What are you doing on Reddit? And it's not just advertising on there because Reddit's like social sharing. You'll get crushed if you just go in there and start blasting out your stuff. They're going to be like, shut you down. People will give you negative comments. So it's like, how can you even get into those levels to try to optimize up within there? So it's really changing. The old days of SEO and skyscraper marketing, that is changing and evolving really quickly, right? And so it's at that level for your touch points. Yeah, like, are your sales team jumping into Reddit combos? Are they on obviously the obvious ones within the staffing board? So it's a lot of things we have to really change how our outreaches work.
I just recently got into Reddit and I have never done it. And I'm like, what is the karma score? And what is it like? It's like a whole new world. I feel like my kid's teaching me something and he's 11. He's not on Reddit, but still. But it's a whole new world and it's changing. So you're not wrong. I think it's very interesting. Let's talk ghosting. Obviously, this industry has always had a problem with ghosting. This is not a new pain point right now, but candidates, clients, and even vendors uh, are really feeling the pain right now of ghosting. What do you think is actually driving it? You mentioned spam. Is there a fix to this? Do you have a solution? Do you have any thoughts behind it or feelings?
Yeah, I mean, on the spam side, right? Spamming's changed within all forms of outreach. It's much easier to market for spam. So it's again making sure they recognize your number, you're texting or calling from, recognize your email. You don't show up as just like unknown contact. And again, you're gonna have to do that through making sure you're verified information, making sure that your numbers are verified, that you're registering it. Similarly, like on LinkedIn, don't just blast to someone you're not connected with. Use your connections when you're reaching out. Otherwise, you're going to get ignored right away. And I think ghosting's happening right now too, because they're kind of calling it the great stay, right? People aren't making changes. We see this. It's the ebb and the flow of staffing. If you've been in it for a while, this is the piece. And so I think that's another part of it. But as that pain point changes, for me, we've seen a lot more outreach. People are doing 2-3x. You have to be careful too. I spoke with a staffing firm and they were using an AI agent for outreach. And they thought it was this huge improvement. Well, the problem was they use it just for outreach, but the way they're doing their search and match for that outreach before they did it, they were doing just specific Ruby on Rails developer, that type of thing. And they're submitting the wrong candidates then as well to the client. So then these candidates stop saying, I don't want to work with you. You're submitting me like 5 jobs. I didn't get a single interview. What it was is they needed not Ruby on Rails, they needed a slightly different code set. Well, if they actually knew that, oh, this person could do both of those and then submit it with that, then they wouldn't get ghosted. They'd get higher placement rates. It's one of those things with the auto apply things that have happened with AI. It also then, if they don't have the right match criteria, it's going to disappoint candidates, which is going to make them answer less, as well as the client's going to be disappointed. So it's like using these tools in the right manner. And if you have the wrong data or data inputs, it's going to give you the wrong output. And so that's what I think is causing some of this ghosting is you're getting submitted to a job that you never would have been a good fit for. But there's other job you got looked over on, even though you have the right skill sets for it. And so it's like really use those search and match tools to like broaden that search and help you get like, what are other jobs that may be similar to this? What other skill sets they have that could be similar when you're doing that? So then you're simple, it used to be the prompts years ago, and now it's changing that. And it's using more of a phrase. And so it's, when I think about it, it's how do you evolve with our outreach? And it's more of like this, again, back to change what we've been doing doesn't work anymore. So we have to make these kind of adaptations.
Look at it from a staffing perspective or a recruiting perspective. Like I was a trainer for years and it's literally, you looked at your ratio reports. Well, you submitted so many candidates and you only got so many interviews. What's your placement to interview ratio? And that just made me think this whole sourcing to interview ratio is different. And a lot of that you may not have control over or how you're doing it. And it's literally changing the operations and how you're actually thinking about even running your business going forward. Because if you're doing things that you did 5 months ago, it's different.
Exactly. And back on the sourcing side, even it comes back to like in an era of this, are you doing referrals? How's that within your organization, right? Like everyone on my staff, right? My team has changed over. I joined a year ago. I have one person that was there before. And that's because I had worked with her at a prior organization, worked together. Everyone else came through referral. I didn't hire a single person that I either didn't know through a partner or got introduced to me. So it's like, what does your referral program look like? And then second, what are you doing for reference checks? Right? That's a big deal. And reference checks can often generate more revenue for you, right? Either get you a new client or more candidates for other positions. So it's also thinking about that when you're looking at your candidates, like look in your internal database, use your network that you built out. That's what makes you unique, right? And use that to help with that side of it as well to not get ghosted. Because, hey, Kortney, I got referred to you by Jessica. Oh, well, shit. Jessica and I worked together. We loved it. Okay, I should probably take that call. So it also changes that approach of how you're doing that outreach too.
We look at things as an easy button, like you said, the easy apply, but those were like I don't want to say old school because it's not even old school. Those were like the original OG easy buttons that we've lost track of that made our business successful. I love that you mentioned that because I love referrals and references. They're like one of my favorite, easiest ways for business. So, well, we're talking so many channels, calls, text, email, LinkedIn. You mentioned WhatsApp. You mentioned Twitch, which I don't know how to, you mentioned Reddit. How are firms managing outreach without burning out their teams or overwhelming their candidates? Do you think there's a balance between that?
I do. And I think that kind of comes back to that all bound. Don't say you have to do it this way. I always say take the end goal, right? Hey, we know what your sales quota is. We know how many candidates you need to place in a month and work back from it. For me, I personally was never the best at cold calling or outreaching. I used my network. So I was always like, I'm going for the highest conversion percentages. Okay, if I want to sell X or close this many deals, I want to do the least amount of outreach possible to get there and above it. And so mine was using my network. And so for some people, it's a volume game. I got a guy on my team. He's a volume guy. He loves it. He loves doing that. Like it excites him. Talked to him this morning. He's like, I added 80 companies and 10 contacts in each this week. And I was like, that is overwhelming.
Yeah.
But that's how he does it. And it works. And so it's, again, I think it's more of an all bound. It's always go to team. Like, what's the end result you're trying to go for here? If you just say, hey, this is your number, go do it. You're painting the same picture for everybody. And I heard this yesterday. We all think we're very unique individuals, even though ironically we're very similar. People think they're overly unique. So if you want to excite a recruiting team, if you want to excite salespeople, like let them be unique, even though we're not that unique. Let them be unique and have their own ways and give them their own control. I learned my mom's a professor. She's a therapist. So is my wife. And the other day, my son was, ironic. We're on a walk and my mom, I'm like telling my son, like, no, don't do that. My mom, just let him make some of his own decisions. Let him be the leader on our walk. So it's that same thing. Let them run their own book of business. Let them be their own leaders and just help them guide as good coaches and managers. Our goal is to get them to the end result, right? How can we help them? Where can we make improvements and small changes to get to there? So we want to prevent burnout. We know attrition's huge in the staffing industry, 30 to 40%. So there's also adding in coaching tools. Like how can you layer that in? What are the tools you can use that'll help upskill them faster, show their successes, where they're being successful, not where they can make changes as well.
I love it. I love that both your wife and your mother are therapists. So that could lead to interesting conversations.
Analyzing me all the time, I'm sure.
Oh, that's great. We talked about AI, and you even talked about AI and the use for it for your use cases here there at Ringover. Obviously, AI is being really thrown at every problem in recruiting right now. At least that's what I hear at my conferences. Like it's like the magic button, but we don't have a lot of understanding sometimes. Where do you think AI genuinely helps those workflows, those processes, the outcomes, and where do you think firms are over relying on it?
It's interesting. I did a podcast, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, with David Falwell, president and owner of Staffing Controls and Staffing Hub, and then Mark Hummel of Toro. And David does an annual report, the Staffing Hub State of Staffing, it's called. And they do, fast growth, slow growth, who's seeing the most. And guess what? There's a direct correlation. The companies that have implemented AI effectively across multiple parts of their company. And I'm not talking generative, right? Yeah, I use generative. I use AI to figure out my recipes, my arguments with my wife, who's a therapist and outthinks me. It's not that type of it. Like how using it with an agentic. The people that have actually implemented it, and he asks different questions of the layers. The ones that have fully implemented it into their process, they saw somewhere between 10 and 20% growth last year. The people that kind of implemented it, they saw a little growth. The people who hadn't really yet, they were shrinking, contracting. I akin it to the 2020 automation boom, right? We all went to work in the office. We had to let go of teams, shrink our staff. And so it was like, how can we make up for that so we don't upset clients? How long is this going to be? And so everybody's adopting automation. That was the big thing. And that's what's happening now. The problem is, like you said, is what AI do I use? right? And where do I start? And so, and to your same point, what are we over relying on? Auto applies, right? Like we said earlier, because it doesn't really match that well often, unless you get a tool that actually pre-screens, finds similar matches, and can go that way with it. And so I think there's a lot there, and we'll take a step back and same thing with their sales team. What is your end goal? And back into that, right? Efficiency is great. Are we using this for sourcing more? What are we using it for? Then find the right tools that help within that stack.
Yeah. Well, talk about Ringover. So whenever you talk about AI, the AI piece that's in there, tell us a little bit about that correlation and how it's helping businesses.
Yeah, for sure. So if we think about like conversational intelligence, that's what I focus on, right? We're, in my opinion, kind of like middle of the funnel, so to speak. We're not top of funnel, middle of funnel. Because a lot of tools after that, middle office, back office, etc. We're middle of funnel in that candidate or context lifecycle or journey, right? And I think that's the way to think about all of our tools is where is it at within your journey of who's coming through, including your recruiters or salesperson. And so we're capturing all the information with those conversations, whatever media you're having, and pulling that back into your system of record. And and a note taker's table stakes. You got a note taker on this. We have a note taker in every meeting we're on, right? Like you have to have a minimum, have that, right? Have a note taker is taking that. Like, I don't have a notebook anymore. I did a training the other day and I had to use the back of a wire money receipt. I didn't even have a notebook, so I stopped taking notes. Hopefully I didn't show the check number on it. I use that because I was like, I don't have a notebook on my desk.
Yeah.
So I stopped taking them, right? And so it's pulling that data back, but great, you pulled back a hour-long conversation. And so if you're using AI within your ATS or CRM, you're going to do a lot of data scan through all that, pull out the key points. Like our strength, for example, is we're pulling out the exact conversation. It's going to listen to it, listen to that call. Was I doing a pre-screen? Or was I doing a sales call? Was I doing a reference call? What is that call? And we're going to categorize and push that data back as structured data into the system. If we push that back into Crelate, for example, it allows Crelate's AI to pick it up and move faster. Because in the end, speed to placement, speed to close is still really important. And as we all know, automation worked back in the day because they had clean data. AI is actually 10x that. If you don't have good data, you're gonna have a really bad output. And so like our tool, for example, is pointing back to the correct structured data. It can alert you as a manager. I have alerts set up to somebody says cancellation. I need to know about it. And it takes me right to where that call was, right where that meeting was. Same thing, extension, pricing. You can set up those types of things. So it's a coaching perspective too. We often think about, oh, how is it helping? It's not just big brothering. If you're using a tool for just big brothering, you're not a good manager. You're past that point right now. You need to really rethink your process. So it's also, how can I coach and upskill my team? And that's where it's going. And so I really think about it as a coaching tool more so than just a data capturing tool. And so the goal here is to upskill our team and how can we help them be more successful.
So I love it. You said AI note taker, table stakes, conversation intelligence, and call analytics. Is there full adoption then that, or do you still think it's okay.
Yeah, no.
Your
So
side
I
told
call
me.
it it's a 30-30-30 rule, right? 30% of employees will adopt it and like super embrace it. 30% kind of will, and 30% go, I don't need to do that. Either they're I've done it just fine without it, or they're new and they just have no idea what they're doing. And some of those new ones are the opposite. They're your heavy adopters. And so I'd say it's a mix. And the thing with all technology, it's something like 50%. If you got like 50% adoption of any tool, you're actually successful. And you get that like 75 mark. It's, wow, they're actually really using this. We look for anything like a red flag's 25% and below. If they're not using it below that, you're sub 10%, we got a problem. They're not going to continue to use the technology. And so we kind of do a health score off of that too. Like how much are you using it and really seeing that adoption of a solution? That's something you should look at all your tech you're looking at. Like what's your adoption levels, right? And see what are you really using. So if you're looking at consolidating right now, it's a good way to look at it. What's your adoption level? What's your impact on your business from it too?
Do you think there's a reason? And I mean, we have this with ATS adoption too, so I'm aware. Do you think for the communication standpoint, do you think there's a different reason for lack of adoption?
Yes, I think in the last couple of years, there's a lot of single point of sale solutions. When you go to staffing world, there were 50% new vendors. I was like, holy crap, who are half these guys? And they, with the ability of AI to build a lot faster, Claude Code and everything, right? A 3-person company can build a really cool stack that does like unique features. The challenge is Do we use an individual point of solution that does exactly this, or there's some that's more all encompassing? And so what I've actually seen is more of a consolidation of tools right now. Hey, that was a nice to have, for example, within that stack. This one does enough of that. And we're going to have crossover, right? That's 100%. And people are like, oh, well, we use this other tool. It does some of that. Like that's going to happen, like with the nature of AI and what it does, right? Like we can give you a summary of the conversation, help you write an email. So relate based off the conversation. That's a part of it. That's an output that comes out of it. That's not the sole purpose of it. So you have to look like what's the end output and what's the goal you're trying to use that tool for.
Absolutely right. And I run partnerships over here, and it's literally by the day the AI companies that are coming out of the woodwork. So, and understanding, because we also have that shiny object syndrome to be like, ooh, there's something new. There's something. But you mentioned communication stack. Essentially, what does that modern communication stack look like for staffing and recruiting firms in 2026 and 2027? It's crazy to even say those numbers. And how far off are most firms from that?
I'm a big believer of ditching the desk phone, getting rid of that. I love the upfront before you even get to that. It's like candidate and contact intelligence, understanding who you're reaching out to. Like, what are you doing to source that information and validate that information? In fast sales, we're using Zoom Info, we're using Sales Navigator, all of that to validate the correct information. Then you're using intent scores, right? We go into, you're in marketing, you're loving this part. Intent scores, like, are they visiting your website? Are they actually out looking for solutions right now? Like, go look and see if people are out hunting for that. You can see that. Like, what are the active searches that are popping up? So that way, when you're reaching out, it's someone that's an active buyer. There was years ago, they added chat to every website. It's like you bring them to your storefront. The person that's wanting to come to the storefront because it's an intelligent buyer now. They're not going to get a cold call from you like, oh my God, AI call recording. I've never heard of this, right? Of course they have. And so it's also like understand you have an intelligent buyer now. And so it's also really asking them when you finally get a hold of them, like, what's that pain point? And so then from there, like it's again, have the ability to communicate multiple ways with them, capture that data back. And once that data is back in your system, what's your follow-up process? What are your tools that are then prepping your team? Like, hey, I use a sales intelligent tool. When I go into my pipeline meetings, I have a sales guy saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to close this deal this month. I'm like, you haven't talked to him in 30 days. No, you're not. And it says here that the deal stalled. No. What I meant was, and I was like, well, you didn't put your notes back into Salesforce then. So that's the problem too. And so it's, what's your sales intelligence tool? And I always think of like sales revenue intelligence, less than just sales, because if we can, it's like recruiting, it's revenue still, right? Placements are revenue. So having a revenue intelligence tool that can actually show you the inputs that are coming in, the outputs that are going out. Because it's a front end, sourcing correct information on them. Middle of stack, your communication platform. Then it's the revenue intelligence tool that's actually making sure you're not missing gaps. It uses your methodology with MedPick, BANT, whatever you have input for your business. And then after that, it's how are you closing? Are you using a deal room? You just implemented a deal room. Again, you're an intelligent buyer. We go to sell it to them. Here's the deal room. Here's the whole package. Here's everything. You can do the same thing in recruiting. How are you putting that package forward to a candidate? What are you showing them? Hey, here's the whole encompassing package. You can go see what they're clicking through. What are they viewing? If they're not looking at the pay package, we've got a problem, or they're parts of key of what you're offering to them that they're not even reviewing. And why did you hammer on that so much if it's not important to them? So even to that level of like, I think when you're communicating, right? So you can see every step of the contact or candidate journey and every step of your salesperson's journey. So again, we're looking at not just one part of it. You have to look at everyone's life cycle through that phase.
You mentioned all these pieces. From your perspective, where you sit, do you feel like that ATS CRM, where do they fit in that stack? Is it the hub or is it just another node? What do you think?
I think it's the hub, right? Your data has to live in there, right? It has to live in there. That is where, if it doesn't exist in there, it doesn't happen. And so that is what's unique to your business, right? Having that conversation there, people are going to come and go. In SaaS, it's 10% attrition. I have to know that I'm capturing all of Carter's conversations. So if Carter leaves, I don't have that information, right? And I lose it. And so that's important for us as a business to be able to pick up. Whereas we have to let someone go. Where do we pick up those pieces? We're going to go try to search their email and find it if they didn't have something linked correctly. You don't want to lose all the business they were generating, especially if it's a top performer. Top performers leave too. they go start their own businesses, or they go to your competitor for a higher pay package. So, like, that could be a big gap for you. So you need to pick that all up and know exactly where all those deals were at in life cycle, as well as it can alert you. That's where that coaching piece comes back in too, is coaching those people. So again, instead of just big brothering it, it's, hey, Kortney, you're saying this is going to happen. It seems like we're stalling a lot of deals right here. A lot of candidates are getting stuck in this phase. They're in submission. They're not moving past there with you. What's going on? Let's look at that. Hey, I see that Chris is doing this. He's sending a deal room to him. He's sending this package to him. He's offering references or he's offering referrals. Hey, Kortney, I know this job wasn't a good fit, but if you have anyone else you could refer to me, that'd be great. We have a referral program we do with you guys. We do with people. And so somebody maybe have been a candidate for you could become your biggest person for referring people to you.
Or your next
And
big
so again,
client.
or your next big client. Exactly. They may stay put and now they're actually a client. And so again, it's multiple outreaches as well as multi-touch and just observing that. And just because they stalled and didn't take that job, they're not dead to you.
Okay. So what do you think? Maybe, I don't know. What's one thing that you think the industry needs to stop doing, or a habit or an assumption that is holding firms back?
Tough question. It's one thing they have to stop doing.
Or an assumption or a belief that they have.
It's the what definition of insanity. If I keep doing the same thing, expect a different output. I mean, as basic as that is, it really is that. You know, you have to be able to adopt. It was David Falwell who told me just January of 2025. He's like, how much do you use AI? I was like, I said, recipes and arguments with my wife, and vacations. And he's like, if you're not using it an hour a day, like actually using it, you're going to be surpassed. And there was a Forbes study recently, and it talked about sales is changing, marketing is changing. A lot of jobs they are being eliminated. The ones that aren't are your top performers. What makes your top performers unique? Top performers build relationships. They build a lasting relationship. Interestingly enough, they really communicate with people. It's something that people can trust. It's something they'll continue to buy from, even if they go to other companies. And to build that relationship, I've made a big push to go back to in-person. Told my team, I've created regional territories. I might find every state and local staffing association going on. Go to the Minnesota Staffing Association, Colorado, Georgia, Mid-Atlantic. Go meet people in person. They value getting to meet people in person. That face-to-face makes a big difference. We all think this digital era is where it's going. Yeah, sure. We all work remote now. I love being in person. That's where I thrive. And I really like getting to meet people, get to know them, learn about their kids. Their mom and their wife are therapists. You won't forget that. And next time you talk, you'll be like, oh, what's new with the therapy world there? That's what lasts though. That's when I'll remember, hey, Kortney, I had a great conversation about this. So whether you bought from me in that time, but I still remembered that, right? Like you told me your boys, they fight like cat and dogs right now because they're 10 and 12. That's what's going to stick with me until pages 5, the summer break. And so it's what's holding you back is that habit. What you did last year isn't going to work this year. How are you going to adapt and change? For me, it's go back to in-person, build relationships, differentiate ourselves in that way, the human touch, so to speak.
I love it. And I 100% agree with that. That is one of my largest pet peeves of in person. I mean, I've been remote before remote was cool. I mean, I've been remote for 15 years in some capacity, but I love seeing people in person, whether it's an event or a conference, or you said Massachusetts. Christine is amazing. I love her. She is like one of my favorite humans, and I talk to her all the time, and I will give her a hug every time she sees me. But like those are the things that ring fresh in your mind. So I 100% agree. I love that advice. I only have a few more questions. I know we have a hard stop here in 15. So Ringover integrates with obviously ATS and CRM platforms like Crelate. What does that connection actually enable firms to do that they couldn't do before? Because so many are like, well, I still have my cell phone. I still have my landline. I still have all these things. But what is our integration? What does it do differently for those firms?
I mean, I think it goes back to it's capturing the right data. It's good to know that I know how old your kids are, you're about to have summer break, those kind of things, but it's those keywords that come up in conversations, right? Hey, I'm worried about this, or this doesn't work out for us, or hey, last time this was the gap. And if I didn't write that down before, if I didn't capture that, that could be like the little golden nugget. You're going to see a trend too, which is interesting. We start to see a trend within there of like the conversations. If you start hearing a lot of people in the LI space, like, oh yeah, we're having order to cancel, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be trying to sell into that space right now. But over here in construction, we're seeing a ton more conversations about, hey, we can't get enough candidates, right? So you'll start to see those trends too. So you got to use that communication that's happening to also see red flags, right? Maybe that vertical you thought was going to be your golden nugget this year, it's slowing down, and you can get and capture that through conversation. So be ahead of those trends. They call it like agentic, like how to use it to plan how you're going to change your business or schedule out what you're doing. So really use it to help that to change who you're targeting and what market you're going after. Because we have to be to adapt right now. That's the other thing. The people that will succeed are the ones that are on their feet. I love startup world. Well, we're a 400-person company in 26 countries. We operate pretty quickly and nimble. And I think that's the other important part. Like in the staffing world, we get stuck like, well, this is what we've always done. It's like, yeah, and you're struggling in that space right now. Is there a shift that's close to it? How can you identify that shift and make that shift and adapt quickly? Otherwise, you might be hung out to dry.
I love thinking about using your data differently. Obviously, with an ATS, everyone wants to keep everyone, including the people that retired in 1992. But if you can't do something with that data, you don't need the data. So, but what actively, I coach on the side. So like, I love the term, so what, now what? Like, all right, so what you have this information, now what are you going to do with it? And if you can't answer that, are you just recording conversations for conversations, or are you doing something with the data? I love that.
Precisely. I always say that to salespeople. Hey, bring your challenges to me, to your exact point. But if you don't bring in like an idea of how you can make a change or shift, like you're just complaining. And I'm only gonna let you do that a few times, then I'm gonna shut you down. So it's bring the data to me. What are the trends? I learned that from a leader. He's like, if you're not bringing data, I'll let you vent. And that's it. And it says, bring the data to it, look at it, look at trends. You can, AI allows us to see that a lot easier too, though, right? I mean, that's one of its strengths. Use it to see trends. Where are candidates going? Where are we getting the most referrals from? What markets are best, right? They get hot and cold. Texas might be the best market in the country right now, or wherever it may be. And like identify that and just make a shift. But it all boils back to the data that's in your system. If it's not Crelate and you're not analyzing that data, why does it matter?
I love it. All right. I have 2 more questions and we have less than 10. We have 14 minutes. Number 1, where do you see recruiter to candidate communication going in the next 2 to 3 years? Break out your crystal ball, Erich. What do you think?
Great question. It's going to go back to demographic. By demographic, I mean age category. So I'm interested to see how that goes, right? I think I'm gonna lump us in the same millennial to one above, like I'm right on the cusp. I think we're going to stick with text and probably LinkedIn messaging. You're going to see newer ones coming in with new media. So being able to adapt to where they're communicating is going to be really crucial. Interestingly enough, I heard like the youngest generation, some of them moved back to flip phones. They don't want smartphones. Like I've seen this like draw to that. And so maybe do phone calls become more prevalent. And so it's just, again, identifying the data and the trend of where it's going, because it's going to, certain generations are going to stick with what they like to use, period. Right? Like I text, that's it. I text and then I call you back. And so just being able to identify that, and like, what's the next big shift? I will say, like, with the creation of the AI outreach and all of that, there's some position where it's great for it to get, it's informing people, maybe getting people to apply, but they may not be able to take someone from, and maybe you can, depending on the role, from start to finish through AI. Again, it comes back to the relationship too. So just really identify that trend and kind of just communicate on their terms, like we talked about at the beginning. So it's just looking for the new trends, where you're seeing recruiters having the most success and salespeople. Okay, they're doing a great job using Facebook Messenger or Instagram or whatever it may be, and make that shift, be able to make that shift and be dynamic as a company.
Good piece of advice. And I hate that we're getting to that older generation.
I know.
If you could give one piece of advice to a firm trying to modernize how their team communicates, what would it be? You obviously just gave an answer with that other question, but
yeah,
anything else?
Back to what I said before. Look at your goal. What are you trying to do here? And maybe your goal this year isn't huge growth. It's retention of your key staff, right? So what are you doing? What are their needs? Asking your team. So one thing I've started doing, and we use Slack for internal communication. And I just poll them. I poll my team. Hey, here's our options. It's funny. It's similar to what I offer my 7-year-old when he gets mad. Hey, instead of saying you're doing this, because he really pushes, he just says no, which I wouldn't have dared done with my parents. He just says no. I'm like, okay. It is, hey, here's the options. Do you want to do this or that? And I ask them all the time, like, hey, here's our options. We can't do both of those. What do you guys prefer? So poll your team. Ask them what they prefer. And try to let them get bought in on it, because then they have buy-in. Can't be like, well, this isn't working. You guys chose this. This is a path we're going with. Let's stick with this and see it through. Right. We just changed territory, like I told you, right? And I got pushback. The first conference someone went with, we had 80 leads. I only got 3 of them. I was like, yes, we can't change the territories week 1 because you went to one conference. And so it's give them some of that strength to make those decisions on how they're going to communicate, what they're going to do. And then you get more buy-in. The more buy-in you get from the team, the more they're going to commit to you as well, right? Like make it a true team instead of a top-down type organization. I think that's going to be your strength as well.
I love it. And different perspectives and so many things. Yes, I'm nodding along this entire time. So, Erich, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective and your lens in this industry. And again, yes, nodding on all the things, ghosting, AI, over-reliance, communication, relationships. Drop in whatever you said I agree with. So
thanks, Cortney.
I love it. If you want to learn more about Erich and the Ringover team, what they're doing, feel free to check them out. I will also include the link to Ringover, as well as your email address in our notes of the show notes. So that'll be there. Hopefully check them out. They're one of the great competitors in our space, and I think they're doing some really amazing things. So Erich, thank you so much for the time today and getting all of your home and everything ready before you leave, like and all the chaos that you have over there. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation today, Kortney.